The rain came sideways that Tuesday morning in October, the kind that made Boston feel like a city personally offended by the season. Daniel Brooks stood on the corner of Tremont and Boylston, one hand raised for a cab that wasn't coming, the other pressing his phone against his ear as the Uber app refreshed for the fourth time. His canvas jacket, the good one, the only one that passed for professional, was already soaked through at the shoulders. His dress shoes, bought 3 years ago for his sister's wedding, made a sound like a wet sponge every time he shifted his weight. The app updated. Trip canceled. Great, he said to no one. He had 40 minutes before the interview. The office was a 20-minute ride without traffic, and traffic on a rainy Tuesday morning in Boston was never without traffic. He had a printed resume in a manila folder under his jacket, pressed against his chest to keep it dry. He had rehearsed his answers in the bathroom mirror at 6:30 while Lily ate cereal at the kitchen table and told him he looked nice, which she said every morning regardless of whether it was true. He needed this job. Not in the abstract, motivational poster way a person needs something. He needed it the way a man needs the heat to work before November. The way a man needs the transmission to hold for another 60,000 miles. The way a man counts backward from a bank balance and realizes the number ends at 0 sometime around the 14th of next month. A black Mercedes sedan pulled to the curb in front of him, hazards blinking twice. Daniel didn't hesitate. He pulled the door open, folded himself into the back seat, and exhaled. "Thank you. I thought I was finished, honestly. The app just canceled on me for the 4th time this morning." The driver didn't respond. Daniel shook the water from his hair and continued, because when he was nervous, he talked, and he had been nervous since approximately 5:15 that morning. "Carter Dynamics on Seaport Boulevard, please. I've got an interview at 9. It's a data operations role, logistics analytics, which is funny because I spent 2 years doing exactly that for a freight company in New Haven before they outsourced the whole department, which actually, you don't need to know any of that." A pause. "My name's Daniel, by the way." Habit. "I always introduce myself to drivers. My daughter thinks it's embarrassing." The woman behind the wheel glanced once in the rearview mirror. She had dark hair pulled back cleanly, reading glasses pushed up onto her head, and the particular stillness of someone accustomed to not being interrupted. She said nothing. Daniel looked out the window at the rain and kept talking. He talked for the entire 11 minutes it took to reach Seaport Boulevard. He talked about the rain. He talked about the shoes that he'd paid $12 for waterproofing spray last spring and apparently been sold automotive wax by mistake. He talked about Lily, who was 7 3/4 and had packed him a granola bar for good luck that morning, which was currently dissolving into paste inside his jacket pocket alongside the resume. He talked about the granola bar. At a red light on Congress Street, the driver spoke for the first time. "Your daughter packed you a granola bar." "Yeah." Daniel looked up from his phone. "Lily. She said it was for energy. She's been watching a lot of nature documentaries." The driver didn't smile, exactly, but something in her posture changed. The light changed. She drove. When the Mercedes pulled up in front of a glass tower on Seaport Boulevard, the kind of building that had a water feature in the lobby, and employed a person whose sole job was to explain the water feature to visitors, Daniel reached for his wallet out of pure muscle memory. "What do I owe you?" The driver put the car in park. Nothing. Daniel looked at his phone. No ride receipt. No driver confirmation. No GPS pin. The slow, cold realization arrived approximately 4 seconds later, the way bad realizations always do. First, a small wrongness in the stomach, then a rapid expansion outward to include the entire morning. "This isn't an Uber," he said. "No," said the driver. "You just pulled over. You opened my door." Daniel stared at the back of her head. "I'm so sorry. I'm deeply sorry. I thought the app it was raining and I thought." "You have 3 minutes," said the driver. "The interview is on the 14th floor. Tell them Marlowe sent you up." Daniel got out of the car. He stood on the wet pavement and looked at the building. He looked back at the car. The Mercedes pulled away from the curb and turned into the parking structure. He went inside. The lobby of Carter Dynamics smelled like cold air and expensive coffee. A woman at the reception desk gave Daniel a visitor badge and pointed him toward the elevators with the practiced efficiency of someone who had directed nervous people toward elevators for a long time. He straightened his jacket in the elevator mirror. The shoulders were still damp. His hair had dried into something that could generously be described as textured. The granola bar had left a rectangular impression on the lining of his pocket. The 14th floor opened into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. 6 people sat around an oval table. 3 of them were already looking at tablets. 1 was pouring coffee. Another was reviewing what appeared to be Daniel's resume. The 6th chair at the head of the table was empty. Daniel took the seat they gestured him toward and clasped his hands on the table to keep them still. 2 minutes passed. The door opened. The woman who walked in was wearing a charcoal blazer and the reading glasses that had been pushed up on her head in the car. She set a leather portfolio on the table and sat down at the head of it. Daniel's hands, which had been still, were no longer still. "Good morning," she said. "I'm Olivia Carter." The 6 other people in the room looked at Daniel with the careful neutrality of people watching a traffic accident from a safe distance. Olivia Carter opened her portfolio. She clicked her pen once. She looked at Daniel with an expression that was impossible to read. Not warm, not cold, not amused, not annoyed. Simply waiting. "Mr. Brooks," she said. "It seems we've already met this morning." The silence in the room was total. Daniel's mind offered him several options. He could pretend the car ride hadn't happened. He could apologize profusely and at length. He could ask if there was a window that opened. Instead, he said, "For what it's worth, I genuinely thought you were a driver." The hazards were on. It seemed like a reasonable assumption in the rain. One of the managers, a man with wire-framed glasses and the build of someone who rode competitively in college, pressed his lips together very hard. Olivia wrote something in her portfolio. "You mentioned you worked in logistics analytics at a freight company in New Haven." "Yes, Railbridge Freight. 2 years until the department was restructured." "What did you work on specifically?" Daniel exhaled. This he knew. This he had practiced. He talked about predictive inventory modeling. He talked about a routing inefficiency he had found in the company's southeastern corridor that had been saving them roughly $80,000 a year in dead mileage before anyone above him noticed it existed. He talked about the gap between what logistics software promised and what logistics software actually delivered, and why the gap was usually a human problem dressed up as a technical one. Olivia did not write anything while he spoke. She watched him. When he finished, she said, "We have a problem in our warehouse network. Inventory accuracy has been degrading for 8 months, and we can't isolate the cause. Our analytics team has been working on it for 6 weeks. What does the error pattern look like?" Daniel asked. She turned her portfolio around and slid it across the table. He looked at the numbers for a long moment. The other people in the room looked at him looking at the numbers. "It's not a software problem," Daniel said. "The error rate spikes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's a process problem. Probably a handoff between shifts, something that happens at a consistent time when accountability transfers from one team to another." Olivia Carter looked at him for 3 seconds. Then she looked at the man with wire-framed glasses. The man wrote something on his tablet. "We'll be in touch by end of day," Olivia said. They were in touch by 2 o'clock. The offer letter from Carter Dynamics was for a position called Senior Data Operations Analyst, which was a real title with a real salary that was 40% higher than anything Daniel had earned at Railbridge. He read it standing at his kitchen counter, while Lily did homework at the table behind him. "Did you get it?" she asked without looking up. "Yeah," he said. "I got it." She looked up. "I knew the granola bar would work." He started the following Monday. The Carter Dynamics office was the kind of place that had a cold brew tap in the break room and standing desks, and a policy of calling everyone by first name, regardless of seniority, which was either a sign of progressive workplace culture or an elaborate fiction designed to make the power structure invisible. Daniel hadn't decided yet. His direct manager was a woman named Patricia Holloway, mid-40s. Sharp, relentlessly organized, the kind of person who color-coded her calendar and meant it. She briefed him on the inventory problem with the efficiency of someone who had briefed many people on it and was tired of doing so. 6 weeks, 4 analysts, 3 consultants, Patricia said. We know it's not the software. We think it's process. But we can't nail down where. Show me the Tuesday-Thursday variance data, Daniel said. And the shift transition logs. Patricia looked at him the way people look at someone who has said something obvious that should have been said 6 weeks ago. She showed him the data. He worked through his first Tuesday and into Wednesday morning. Not because he was trying to impress anyone, though he was aware that impressing people was prudent at the moment, but because the problem was genuinely interesting in the way a broken thing is interesting when you can almost see the mechanism of how it broke. At 6:15 Wednesday morning, Patricia arrived to find Daniel at his desk with a cold cup of coffee and a whiteboard covered in a diagram that looked, to the uninitiated, like a conspiracy wall. The handoff, Daniel said. The afternoon shift is entering receipt confirmations before the physical count is complete. It's a workaround. Someone started doing it months ago to hit their processing metrics, and the behavior spread. The inventory system is recording a confirmed receipt for items that are still being counted. By the time the actual count posts, the reconciliation algorithm has already moved on. Patricia stared at the whiteboard. How do we fix it? She asked. 2-step confirmation. The system won't accept a receipt until the physical count token closes. It's a 2-hour build. You could roll it out by Thursday. Patricia called 3 people into the room. The fix rolled out Thursday afternoon. Inventory accuracy improved 18% by end of week. Daniel found out about this from Patricia on Friday morning when she appeared at his desk with a coffee and set it down without comment. It was the good coffee from the cold brew tap, not the automatic machine in the corner. He didn't say anything. Neither did she. This, he understood, was the acknowledgement. Olivia Carter ran Carter Dynamics the way a person runs something they built from nothing, which is to say, with a particular kind of attention that is different from the attention of someone who inherited a thing or was appointed to manage it. She had started the company at 31 with a $400,000 seed round and a logistics software platform that she had spent 18 months coding in an apartment in Cambridge. She was 40 now, and the company employed 612 people, and she still occasionally rewrote pieces of the core platform herself when the engineering team wasn't looking. She was not in the habit of noticing individual analysts. She noticed Daniel Brooks. Partly it was the inventory problem, which her team had circled for 6 weeks before he solved it in 36 hours. Partly it was the Wednesday morning debrief she had attended on a whim, when she had watched him walk Patricia through the mechanism of the problem with the patience of someone who genuinely wanted the other person to understand, not just agree. Partly, though she did not articulate this to herself in precisely these terms, it was the granola bar. She assigned him to the harbor logistics project the following week. It was not unusual for her to move analysts between projects. Patricia raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. The harbor logistics project was a mess. A Port Authority contract that Carter Dynamics had won in August depended on a predictive model for container throughput that wasn't performing within the contracted accuracy thresholds. The engineering team had been patching it for 2 months. Daniel looked at the model on Monday morning. On Wednesday, he met with Olivia directly for the first time since the interview. A 15-minute standing meeting in the glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor, just the 2 of them and a shared screen. He was nervous. He talked faster than he meant to, the way he did when he was nervous, and halfway through his explanation he caught himself doing it and made a deliberate effort to slow down. Olivia did not hurry him. She asked 2 questions. Both of them were good questions, the kind that cut to the center of something rather than circling it. The model is overtrained on summer data, Daniel said. It's treating October container patterns as anomalies. It needs to be retrained on a 12-month cycle with seasonal weighting. It's not a fundamental flaw, it's a calibration problem. How long to recalibrate? 3 weeks if I do it with the engineering team. Maybe 2 if they let me get into the code directly. Olivia looked at him for a moment. I'll tell them to let you in. She left the conference room. Daniel remained standing at the shared screen for a moment, then turned it off. Outside the glass wall, he could see the open floor of the office analysts at standing desks, engineers in clusters around monitors, a row of windows with the gray October harbor beyond them. He had been here 2 weeks. He had fixed one problem and was approximately halfway through fixing another. He thought about Lily, who had asked him last night if his new job was good. Yeah, he had told her. I think it might be. The Carter Dynamics Autumn Gala was held on the last Friday of October, in a venue on the waterfront with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the harbor that looked, at night, like a painting of a city rather than a city itself. The company hosted it every year. Clients, board members, press, senior staff. Patricia had told Daniel to attend and implied, without saying so directly, that his attendance was observed. He wore the same suit jacket he'd worn to the interview, dried and pressed this time. He borrowed a tie from his neighbor, a retired high school principal named Howard Finch, who had excellent taste and an extensive collection of neckwear. The gala was the kind of event that had a string quartet and passed hors d'oeuvres and 3 different kinds of sparkling water. Daniel stood near a window with a glass of club soda and watched the room with the mild anthropological interest of someone who had studied a place in theory and was now visiting in person. He recognized Olivia Carter by the quality of the space around her, the slight orbit that forms around people that other people want something from. She was talking to a man in a well-cut suit who laughed at precisely the right intervals, the way people laugh when they want to seem relaxed. Daniel looked out the window. You look like you're calculating an exit route. He turned. A woman about his age, dark-skinned, wearing a green dress and an expression of dry amusement, had appeared beside him. I'm calculating where the food is, Daniel said. I missed dinner. She laughed, a real laugh, not the interval kind. I'm Renata Vaughn. I run the client success team, Daniel Brooks. Data operations. I know who you are. You fixed the inventory problem. Patricia fixed the inventory problem. I found where it was broken. Renata considered this. That's a very precise distinction. I'm a data person. She gestured toward the hors d'oeuvres table. The salmon ones are good. Avoid anything involving a beet. She drifted back into the room. Daniel went to find the salmon. He was standing at the edge of the dance floor, not on it, just adjacent to it, in the careful way of someone who had not yet been invited and was not about to invite himself, when Olivia Carter appeared beside him with the suddenness of someone who had navigated a crowd efficiently. Mr. Brooks. Daniel, he said. Please. She looked at the dance floor. How are you finding the harbor project? I think we'll hit the accuracy threshold by the end of next week. The seasonal retraining is going well. Good. A pause. Patricia tells me you've been coming in before 7 most mornings. Lily's school starts at 8:15. The office is on the way. Olivia looked at him briefly. Your daughter? Yeah. He watched a couple move through a slow waltz in the center of the floor. She thinks my job is fixing computers for a nice lady. I haven't corrected her. That's not entirely inaccurate. He laughed. She almost smiled, a careful, calibrated, almost. The string quartet shifted into something slower. Do you dance? Olivia asked. He considered lying. I dance in the kitchen with my daughter. It's a specific skill set. Meaning I know all the moves to the wheels on the bus, and I'm a disaster at everything else. She looked at the dance floor. Then she looked at him with the particular directness that he had noticed in the car on Tremont Street and in the conference room and in the Wednesday meetings, the look of someone who had decided something. Come on, she said. I just told you. I heard you. She moved onto the floor and turned back to wait. He followed her, because she was the CEO and he had been at the company for 3 weeks, but also because something about the way she had turned and waited made refusal feel like the wrong choice in a way that had nothing to do with his employment status. They danced badly at first, him stepping wrong, her adjusting. The two of them finding a rhythm incrementally rather than all at once. The harbor was a smear of lights through the glass. The music was slow and the room was warm. You're improving, she said. The bar was low, he said. She made a sound that was not quite a laugh and was not quite not a laugh. For 3 minutes and 20 seconds, he would later be unable to explain why he remembered this detail. Olivia Carter was not the CEO of anything. She was just a woman who had learned to dance properly and was patiently teaching the steps to someone who had learned to dance in a kitchen with a 7-year-old. When the song ended, she stepped back. "Thank you," she said, formally, the way she said everything formally. "Thank you," he said. She returned to the orbit of the room. He returned to the window. Renata appeared at his shoulder. "That was interesting," she said. "We danced," Daniel said. "I noticed." "It wasn't." "I know what it wasn't," Renata said. "I'm just telling you people noticed." Daniel looked out at the harbor. "How many people?" "All of them," said Renata. The Monday after the gala, things were different. Not dramatically different. Not in any way that could be pointed to directly. But the quality of the silence when Daniel walked into the 14th floor conference room had a new texture, a slight attention, a subtle repositioning of things. He noticed people noticing him and then quickly not noticing him. The way you notice a thing and then pretend you didn't. Patricia said nothing. Patricia was constitutionally opposed to discussing anything that was not directly related to a deliverable. Renata sent him a brief email that said only, "Head down for a bit. Not because you did anything wrong." He read it twice and didn't reply. Olivia Carter sent him nothing, because Olivia Carter communicated through scheduled meetings and Patricia, and she had not scheduled a meeting. He finished the harbor logistics recalibration on Wednesday. The model hit 91% accuracy against the contracted threshold of 88. He wrote the summary report and sent it to Patricia. Patricia forwarded it up the chain. On Thursday, the Wednesday morning standing meeting with Olivia was not on his calendar. He assumed it had been rescheduled. He checked on Friday. It had been canceled. He told himself this was normal. Projects end, meetings get canceled. He was 3 weeks into a job at a company that had 600 people and a harbor contract, and presumably many other concerns besides a data analyst who had danced badly at the gala. He told himself this convincingly enough that he mostly believed it until the following Wednesday, when the empty slot on his calendar at 9:15 felt less like a rescheduled meeting and more like a door that had been quietly closed. The work itself continued. Patricia moved him to a new project, a pricing model for a mid-Atlantic distribution network that was interesting in its own right. He worked. He did good work. He arrived before 7 and left before Lily's after-school pickup at 4. He told Lily the job was still good. She asked if the nice lady was still nice. He said yes. He wasn't sure this was true. The board meeting was on a Thursday in mid-November, in the same glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor where Daniel had presented his Wednesday findings for 3 weeks. Carter Dynamics had 4 board members besides Olivia. 2 of them were founders of other companies who had invested in the seed round and remained on the board out of genuine interest. 1 was a venture partner at a firm in San Francisco who joined by video most of the time. 1 was a man named Clifford Beaumont, 62, who had been on the board for 6 years and who Olivia thought of, privately, as a person who collected boards the way other men collected golf clubs, as a display of affiliation rather than engagement. Clifford brought up the gala. Not directly. Clifford never did anything directly. He brought it up by asking about internal culture initiatives and whether the company had guidelines around senior staff relationships, and by using the phrase, optics of leadership, twice, which was 2 times more than any phrase should be used in a single paragraph. Olivia let him finish. "I'll take that under advisement," she said. She returned to her office after the meeting and stood at the window for a long time, looking at the harbor in the November light, which was flat and gray and unforgiving. The thing about Clifford Beaumont was that he was wrong about the facts, but not wrong about the implication. Carter Dynamics was her company, which she had built, which meant that every decision she made was also a decision about the company. The 2 things were not separate. They had not been separate for 9 years. She had dated exactly twice since she started Carter Dynamics. Once, briefly, a man she had met at a conference in Seattle who had turned out to be less interesting than she'd hoped. Once, less briefly and more painfully, a venture partner who had understood her work better than he'd understood her and had eventually made the two things the same, which they were not. She had decided, after the second one, that the energy required to maintain a relationship while running a company was energy she didn't have and wasn't willing to manufacture. She had believed this for 6 years. The problem, she could see it clearly enough from the window, which was the useful thing about windows, was that Daniel Brooks had arrived in her car talking about waterproofing spray and granola bars and his daughter's school schedule, and had not known who she was, and had not tried to impress her, and had proceeded to fix in 36 hours something her team had been circling for 6 weeks, and had danced with her at the gala with the focused ineptitude of someone trying his best at something he wasn't good at, which was she recognized this the thing that had gotten her. She had taken the meeting off his calendar because it was the responsible thing to do. She was not sure it was the right thing to do. These were not always the same thing. The text arrived on a Wednesday evening in late November at 7:43 while Daniel was reading to Lily. He finished the chapter before he checked it. Lily had a strict policy about phones during reading time, which she enforced with the solemnity of a 7-year-old who understood fairness as an absolute principle. The text was from an unknown number, but the message was clear enough. "We should talk. Rooftop. Tonight if you can." Oh, see. He put Lily to bed. He called his neighbor Howard Finch and asked if Howard could listen for Lily for an hour. Howard said of course, because Howard was a retired principal and understood the irregular schedules of people with children. The Carter Dynamics building had a rooftop terrace that wasn't generally open in November. The door at the top of the stairwell was unlocked. The city spread out in every direction, the harbor to the east, the downtown towers to the north, the bridges lit up in the cold. Olivia was standing at the railing when he arrived, her coat collar up against the wind. He stood beside her. Neither of them said anything for a moment. The city was quieter at this height than it was at street level. The wind came off the harbor, steady and cold. "I owe you an explanation," she said. "You canceled a meeting." "That happens. I've been avoiding you for 3 weeks." "I know." She turned to look at him. "Does that bother you?" "Yes," he said, without hesitation and without looking away, because he was tired of managing the distance between what he felt and what he said, and the distance wasn't getting any smaller. She looked at the city. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to not make it easier for me to say it." "Okay. I'm 40 years old and I run a company that 600 people depend on, and I have a board that watches everything I do, and I have not been in a relationship that lasted longer than 8 months since I started Carter Dynamics." She said it at the pace of someone reciting terms and conditions. "I am telling you this not as an explanation, but because it seems like relevant context." "Okay." The last time I allowed myself to, she stopped. The wind moved. "I made assumptions about what the person wanted from me, and the assumptions turned out to be correct, and it ended in a way that cost me professionally and personally, and I decided afterward that the cost wasn't worth it. And then I got in your car." A pause. "And then you got in my car," she agreed. He looked at the harbor. A container ship was moving slowly through the channel, its running lights orange and steady. "Can I tell you something?" he said. "I spend about 60% of my energy every day managing the distance between what I need and what I let myself ask for. Not because I enjoy it, because there's a 7-year-old at home and her well-being depends on me making decisions that are calibrated rather than impulsive. And I've been doing that for 2 years, and it becomes a habit eventually." He paused. "What I'm saying is that I understand the math you're doing. I do the same math." Olivia was quiet for a moment. "What does the math say?" "It says I've been at this company for 6 weeks, and I like this job and I don't want to complicate it. It says Lily needs stability more than I need anything for myself." He looked at her. "It also says that the last 3 weeks have been the longest 3 weeks I've had in a while, and I've had some long weeks." She was looking at him with an expression he hadn't seen before. Not the boardroom neutrality. Not the careful, almost smile from the gala. Something more direct than either of those. "I'm not good at this," she said. "I want you to know that going in. Neither am I. I'm going to be difficult. I have a 7-year-old. I know difficult." She made a sound, a real one, surprised out of her by the absurdity of the comparison, and then pressed her lips together as if she could take it back. "That was funny," he said. "Don't make a habit of it," she said. The container ship moved through the channel. The city hummed below them. "I'd like to start over," Olivia said. "Properly. Not at work. Outside of it." "Dinner?" he said. "Dinner. Saturday. There's a place in the South End that Lily told me to try. She saw it on a cooking show. Your daughter is curating your social life. She's very opinionated. You'll understand when you meet her." A long pause. The wind came off the harbor. "When I meet her," Olivia said, "eventually. If you want." She looked at the city for another moment. Then she straightened her collar and turned toward the door. "Saturday," she said. Dinner on Saturday was at a small Italian place in the South End with exposed brick and candles in wine bottles and a menu written on a chalkboard, which was exactly the kind of place that Lily would have selected based on a cooking show because it looked, as Lily had explained to Daniel on Thursday evening, like a place where people talk about important things. Daniel arrived first and sat at a corner table and ordered sparkling water and tried not to look at the door. Olivia arrived 6 minutes late. She was wearing a dark coat and had let her hair down, and she looked so entirely unlike the person who ran board meetings on the 14th floor that Daniel stood up before he quite meant to. "Sit down," she said. But she was almost smiling. They talked for 2 hours and 40 minutes. The dinner itself took up maybe 40 minutes of that. The rest was conversation, the kind that moves in unexpected directions and doubles back and finds connections between things that had seemed unrelated. She told him about the company, not the version of it that existed in press releases and investor decks, but the actual texture of it, the 18 months in Cambridge writing code, the seed round that almost didn't close, the first hire, the second hire, the error she'd made in year 3 that cost them a client and taught her something she still applied every quarter. He told her about New Haven, about Lily's mother, who had left when Lily was 11 months old and whom Daniel thought about less than he used to, which was either healthy or avoidant, depending on the week. About the freight company, which had been good work in a limited way. About the particular exhaustion of being the only person responsible for another person, which was not a complaint, he was clear about that, but was a specific kind of weight that was different from other kinds. "Do you resent it?" Olivia asked. "Being alone with it?" He thought about the question the way he thought about data questions directly, without trying to arrive at an answer before the analysis was complete. "Sometimes," he said. "In the abstract. Not Lily specifically. Just the..." He searched for the word. "The absence of someone to hand it to for an hour. Even just an hour. The weight doesn't go away, but the shared carrying of it matters." Olivia said nothing for a moment. She turned her wine glass slowly on the tablecloth. "I understand that," she said. "In a different context, but I understand it." He believed her. They went for a walk after dinner, around the public garden in the cold, and the conversation went quiet in a comfortable way that is rarer than the talking kind. The trees were bare. The pond was frozen at the edges. He walked her to her car, a different car than the Mercedes. A black SUV that he did not get into. "Saturday was good," she said. "Saturday was very good," he said. She got in the car. She drove away. He walked back to the T-stop and stood on the platform and thought about the container ship moving through the harbor and the way she'd said "when I meet her," and the way he had decided on the rooftop that the math, this time, was different. He told Lily in December, in the kitchen, while they made pancakes on a Sunday morning. Not everything. He told her that he'd been spending time with someone from work, someone he liked, that it was new and he wasn't sure how it would go, but that he wanted Lily to know because Lily noticed things, and if she was going to notice anyway, he'd rather she heard it from him. Lily listened to this with the focused attention she gave to things she considered important. She was pouring blueberries into the batter. She did not stop pouring. "Is she nice?" Lily asked. "I think so. Yes. What's her name?" "Olivia." Lily considered this. "Does she have kids? Does she like kids?" "I don't know yet." Lily stirred the batter. "You should find out," she said, in the tone of someone offering practical advice. "That's fair," Daniel said. "Can she come for pancakes?" "Maybe. Eventually. You should ask her," Lily said. "Pancakes tell you a lot about a person." Daniel looked at his daughter, who was 7 3/4 and was wearing a sweatshirt with a cartoon whale on it and was giving him relationship advice over Sunday morning pancakes, and thought that Lily was going to be spectacularly difficult and spectacularly wonderful. In that order. For approximately the rest of his life. "I'll ask her," he said. December was cold and the harbor froze in the shallows, and Carter Dynamics had its best Q4 in 4 years, which Patricia announced at the all-hands with a quiet satisfaction that was as close to celebrating as Patricia got. Daniel's pricing model for the Mid-Atlantic network went live in the first week of December and performed within 3% of projection, which was technically within the acceptable range and practically better than the projection deserved. He was moved to a new project, a demand forecasting model for a port in Baltimore that was more complex and more interesting, and which Patricia gave him lead on, which was a thing that happened to people who had been at the company for 2 months and solved 2 major problems. Apparently, he and Olivia had dinner twice in November and once in the first week of December, and talked on the phone on Sunday evenings when Lily was asleep, which had become a habit without either of them explicitly deciding to make it a habit. She was, as she had warned him, difficult. Not in the ways he'd expected, not cold, not absent, not withholding in the brittle way of someone protecting themselves, but difficult in the way of someone who had spent a long time being entirely responsible for an enormous thing, and had, as a consequence, very specific ideas about how most things should be done, and a limited instinct for the particular kind of softness that a relationship requires. She had strong opinions about restaurants and weak opinions about movies. She worked too late on Tuesdays. She forgot to eat lunch regularly enough that he had started putting the reminder in her calendar, which she had noticed and not commented on, which was its own kind of comment. She asked good questions. She listened better than almost anyone he'd ever known. She sent him links to logistics papers at 1 in the morning with brief annotations in the subject line, which was strange and also exactly right. In mid-December, Lily got sick, a proper sick, fever and chills, and the particular misery of a 7-year-old who was not used to feeling bad. Daniel stayed home 2 days. On the second day, Olivia showed up at the apartment at 6 in the evening with soup from the Italian place in the South End and a stack of picture books she had apparently bought that afternoon at a bookstore in Beacon Hill. "The man at the bookstore told me the whale one was very good," she said at the door, holding the bag. Daniel looked at the bag. He looked at her. "Come in," he said. Lily was on the couch in a blanket with a thermometer. She looked at Olivia with the assessing gaze she used on new information. "Are you Olivia?" Lily asked. "I am," Olivia said. "Dad said you were coming eventually. I came a little early." Lily considered this. "Did you bring soup?" "I did." "Okay," Lily said, as if this settled something. Olivia sat on the edge of the couch and opened the whale book and began to read. Her voice, which in board meetings and Wednesday stand-ups had the measured cadence of someone managing the pace of a room, settled into something quieter. Lily pulled the blanket up and listened. Daniel stood in the kitchen doorway and watched, and thought that the math, this time, was not wrong. The harbor contract renewed in February. The Baltimore demand model went live in March and hit 94% accuracy on its first quarter, which was the kind of result that gets talked about at industry conferences. Daniel was promoted in March, a title change and a salary adjustment that Patricia delivered by leaving a revised offer letter on his desk without comment, which was exactly how Patricia operated and which he had learned to read correctly. He and Olivia had a conversation in February that was difficult and necessary and lasted 3 hours, mostly about the board and the optics and the specific ways in which their relationship was complicated by the fact that she was his employer's employer, as she put it, which was technically accurate. They talked about it the way they talked about logistics problems directly, without trying to arrive at the answer before the analysis was done, adjusting the model when new information arrived. The conclusion of the analysis was they would be careful and transparent where transparency was required, and they would not let the complexity of the situation be a reason to avoid the situation. Clifford Beaumont raised the subject at the March board meeting. Olivia addressed it directly, without evasion, in terms that established both the fact of the relationship and the irrelevance of Clifford Beaumont's opinion on the subject. Clifford Beaumont did not raise it again. In April, Daniel took Lily to a Sox game. Olivia came. She wore a baseball cap that was slightly too large for her head and sat between them and ate a hot dog with visible skepticism and genuine enjoyment. And Lily spent the third inning explaining the rules of baseball to her, with the thoroughness of someone who had only learned the rules herself in the first inning. "You don't know the rules," Daniel said. "I know some of them," Lily said. "You just told her the pitcher gets 3 strikes. Some of the rules," Lily said. Olivia laughed, a real one. The kind that was becoming easier to find. The way certain things become easier the more you practice them. The following October was the same as the first one, in the ways that Boston Octobers are always the same. The leaves, the rain, the particular quality of light that is specific to that latitude and that season and that city. It was different in the ways that a year makes things different. Lily was 8 now, opinionated about breakfast foods and picture books and the correct way to hold a baseball bat, which she had been practicing since April with equipment she had selected herself at a sporting goods store with Olivia's assistance. She called Olivia by her name, not by a title, which had happened naturally and without negotiation, and which Daniel thought was exactly right. Daniel had been at Carter Dynamics for a year. He ran the Logistics Analytics division, now a team of 7 people, and a portfolio of projects that would have seemed improbable 12 months ago, from the corner of Tremont and Boylston in the rain, with a dissolving granola bar in his pocket. On the first Tuesday of October, a rainy morning, the same sideways rain as the year before, Daniel picked Lily up from school and took her to the Carter Dynamics building after hours, when the office was quiet. He had arranged this with Patricia, who had said nothing except, "Don't make a mess." The 14th floor was empty. The harbor was orange and gray through the windows. Lily walked in slowly, looking at everything with the comprehensive attention she gave to new environments. "This is where you work?" she said. "This is where I work. It's big." "It is." She walked to the window and looked at the harbor. "Is this where you met Olivia?" "In a way," he said. Lily nodded, as if this confirmed a theory. Olivia was on the rooftop when they went up. She had arranged 2 portable heaters and a folding table and 3 chairs, which was the kind of logistical preparation that was entirely characteristic of her. There was soup from the Italian place and a box of the crackers that Lily liked and a thermos of hot chocolate that Daniel hadn't known about. "You planned this," he said. "I plan things," she said. "It's one of my qualities." "Is it a good quality?" "Jury's still out," Lily said, helping herself to crackers. Olivia looked at Daniel. He looked at her. The harbor was the same harbor. The lights were the same lights. The city hummed below them. The same city, doing what cities do in October, raining, cooling, turning gold and amber and the particular red of a Boston maple in the middle of its 3rd week. "I have something for you," Daniel said. He reached into his jacket pocket, the canvas jacket, the same one from a year ago, finally properly waterproofed, and brought out a small box. Olivia looked at the box. "It's not a ring," he said. She looked at him. "I mean, it's not nothing. But it's not a ring." He opened the box. Inside was a pair of earrings, small silver ones, shaped like the ginkgo leaves that fell every October on the corner of Tremont and Boylston. "I had them made. Because that corner that's where this started, and I didn't want to just," he stopped. I'm not doing this correctly. You're doing fine, Olivia said. Her voice was careful in the way it got careful when something mattered. I wanted to give you something that was about the beginning. Not about what this could be, just about what it was. He looked at the earrings in the box. A man in a wet jacket got in your car by mistake and talked at you for 11 minutes about a granola bar. And instead of being annoyed, you paid attention. And everything after that was because you paid attention. Lily had stopped eating crackers. Olivia reached out and took the box. She looked at the earrings for a moment. Then she looked at him with the expression he'd first seen on the rooftop in November, the direct one. The one that wasn't managed or calibrated or careful. I'm going to be difficult, she said. It was the same thing she'd said on the rooftop. But this time, it wasn't a warning. I know, he said. The board is going to be annoying. They have been. Work is going to be complicated. It already is. And I don't know how to do any of this particularly well. He looked at her. Neither do I. But we're pretty good at problems. She put the earrings in. Lily climbed into Daniel's lap and reached out and held one of Olivia's hands, which she did sometimes now without asking the easy unself-consciousness of a child who had decided a person was safe. The harbor moved below them. The city moved around them. The leaves on the trees of the south end were orange and red and gold, the same colors they'd been a year ago. The colors they'd be a year from now, the city doing what it did, turning and returning, season into season, the way things that are built to last continue. Hot chocolate's getting cold, Lily said. She's right, Olivia said. They poured the hot chocolate. The rain had stopped. The lights of the harbor came on, one by one, the way they always did when the evening arrived without announcement, without ceremony, just the ordinary accumulation of small illuminations that together made something you could see from far away.